Record. Okay, welcome to Afternoon Art Club. Today we're starting a new project on color, and we're going to be working together, first of all, to create a color wheel. Now, I'm going to talk to you about what a color wheel is. It's a really important tool that artists use to help them understand how colors work together. So we're going to make a color wheel together and learn about how to use it as a tool. And then near the end of our class, we're going to be doing a drawing or starting a drawing that you can use next time, that we'll use next time to finish up our artwork for the month of December. I hope you all are having a really wonderful December so far, just a few days in. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so that you can see what's happening on my desktop surface, and you can follow along with me. Give me just a minute to get the sharing working. Sometimes it works easy, sometimes it's a little tricky. Okay. Hopefully it works without trouble. Oh. Okie dokie. All right, so I'm going to just hold on one second. I'm going to zoom in so you can see a little bit better than this. There we go. And I'm going to lock my focus. Okay. All right, wonderful. Okay, guys, so again, please remember that if you have a question while I'm talking, please just put that in the chat box, and I will be happy to answer your questions while we're going along. I am going to pull up the chat box right now. Okay, and we will have a few more people kind of joining in throughout, so that's fine as well. Okay, guys, so today we're going to start out by making a simple color wheel. Now, this can be really super simple, or you can be creative with it, however you would like. But we're going to do this to learn a little bit about the relationship between colors. Now, I want to show you the supplies that you're going to need for this. Now, if you want to work along with me today, that's totally fine. But you can also just watch and do this sometime throughout the week. Remember that we do record these sessions so that if you need to go back and watch it again, or if I do something a little too quickly and you want to be able to slow down or speed it up, then you can do that by watching the video. But I want to show you today what we're going to be using. So if you got a kit from us at the museum, you're going to need at least 2 sheets of paper and a watercolor strip, just like this. So this is our watercolor paint strip and our paper. If you did not get a kit from us at the museum and you're going to be doing this from home, you're going to need some watercolor paints and a paintbrush. If you're using the watercolor strip from the kit, it came with a little watercolor paint swab, so you should have something that looks like that. And you're also going to need a pencil. And there are a few other things that you can use that are going to be helpful. I like to use a paper plate when I'm mixing paints together, because usually paper plates have kind of a slick surface, and it's really easy to mix paints on the surface of a paper plate. So I like to have one of those nearby. But if you don't have one, then that's totally fine. You don't have to use this. You could actually use a regular plate if your parents said it was okay, or you could just use the side of your paint strip, a white area in your paint strip. So however you want to do that is totally fine, but you're going to see me today using a paper plate. And you're going to need a little cup of water, just like I have here. And you might want either a paper towel, or I'm going to be using, this is an old washcloth I use when I'm painting, and I'm going to be using this to dry off my paintbrush because it really helps keep the amount of water on my paper down. So those are the supplies that you're going to need. Again, you're going to need at least 2 sheets of paper today. We're going to just start with one of them, but you need at least 2 for today. And you're going to need either paint and a paintbrush, or watercolor strip and a paint swab. You're definitely going to need a pencil. And once we start painting, you're going to need water and either a washcloth or a paper towel. Okay, so I'm going to set my paints to the side because I'm not quite ready to use those yet. Now today we're going to be making a color wheel. Now I'm going to write that down just so you will know what I'm saying if you can't understand me clearly. We're going to be making a color wheel. Now, a color wheel can be made a lot of different ways, but we're going to do just a really simple color wheel. Now, again, you might want to be creative with this today, but we need a color wheel with 6 sections. So if I was going to draw this as a circle, I could just draw a big circle on my paper, just like that. And if you have a ruler, you could use a ruler to make some lines, but if you don't have one, you don't need it. I might use one just because I have one here. I'm going to make a line down the center, just like that. Now I have 2 sections, right? So I made a circle with a line down the middle, so now I have 2 sections. And now I'm going to draw an X in the middle. So I'm going to draw an X that goes this way, one side of the X, and then another side of the X. I'm going to try to make them all meet, all those lines meet right in the middle. Okay, and now I have a circle. It kind of looks like a wheel, doesn't it? Like the wheel of a car, maybe. Okay, and so now I have a wheel, or maybe more like a bicycle wheel, and it has 6 sections. So if I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections. So we could make an easy color wheel just like this. But if you want to be creative and you're just feeling creative today, you could think of something else that has 6 sections. So let me show you an example of that. This flower, for example, could be our color wheel. So this also has 6 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flower petals going around in a circle. Now, last month we talked about radial symmetry, and all of these designs also have radial symmetry. So if you wanted to do something like a flower, you could just draw a circle in the middle and then just make sure that your flower has 6 petals that go around the outside. 4, 5, and 6. Had to kind of squeeze the last 2 in there on that one. But you just need to make sure you have 6 petals on your flower if you're going to do it that way. So whichever way you do it is totally fine. I did a circle with 3 lines, one down the middle, and then an X to get 6 sections. Or you could do something like this, like a flower with 6 petals. So I'm going to actually paint on this one today. I'm going to write that this is a color wheel. Now, a color wheel, and I already told you a little bit about what a color wheel is, but a color wheel is a tool that artists use to help them understand how colors work together. So we're going to start out with our color wheel, and I'm going to just maybe write a couple of things on the side. You can either write these things down or not. It doesn't matter. You don't have to write anything down at all. A lot of this is stuff you might remember from just learning and talking about art over the years. So, for example, we're going to talk about primary colors. Primary colors. That's what I wrote right there. So primary colors, boys and girls, are colors that you cannot make by mixing any other colors together. So when we're painting, as an artist, anytime I'm painting, I have to start out with the primary colors. I cannot mix any 2 colors together to get the primary colors. So let's add the primary colors first to our color wheel. I'm going to start out using the paint strip, and I'm probably going to switch back and forth a couple of times today, just so you can see some of the different options that you can use. And if you don't have a paint strip or watercolor paints, you could also use colored pencils or crayons for this as well. So if you got a kit from us, it came with some colored pencils and some crayons. But here's some other colored pencils that I have just sitting on my desk. So you could use anything that is colored to do this with. So I'm going to start out by just getting my paintbrush, or my paint swab, that's what I'm using right now, wet. And I'm going to start with red. Now, red is a primary color, which means, and all I've done so far is put a little water on my paint swab and then rubbed it onto that paint strip. And you can see it starting to pick up that red paint. I'm going to paint it in this flower petal. Now, red is a primary color, and that just means that we cannot mix any two colors together to get red. We have to start out with red. So we have to start with red. We can't mix anything together. If we don't have red paint, there's nothing we can mix together to get red. So I'm just going to keep picking up a little bit of red paint from my paint strip and paint this whole flower petal in red. Now, if I were doing this on my circle like this, I would just paint one of my pie slices red, same way. Okay, so just one of the sections, paint that red if you're working along with me. So that's our first primary color. Now, if you want to, you can label it. I'm going to write next to it red, but you don't have to. You can see that it's red, so you don't have to write it, but sometimes it helps me to have things written down. Okay, so I have red right at the top, and I want to add the next primary color. There are 3 primary colors. So we have red. The next one we're going to come to on our watercolor strip is yellow. Yellow is a primary color. Nothing we mix together will give us yellow. So I'm going to add a little water to my watercolor strip. If you're using the watercolor strip, you do have to kind of let the water settle a little bit on there so that you can pick up the paint. Okay, now let me show you where we're gonna put the yellow, because this can be a little tricky. So we're not gonna put it next to the red. Here's my red. I'm gonna skip one, and then I'm gonna put my yellow right here. So don't put it right next to the red. Skip one, and then add it into the next space of whatever you've drawn. If you've drawn a flower, or you've drawn a wheel, a circle wheel like we started with, or anything, if you could think of anything that's creative and make a more creative color wheel than I have here. Just because a color wheel is a tool doesn't mean it can't also be creative. All right, so now I have red. I'm going to write yellow right here at this one. So I have red, and I have yellow, and I have a space in between red and yellow. This one's empty, and there's a reason for that. We're going to talk about what that reason is. And let's go ahead and add our last primary color. So we have red, we have yellow, and we have one other primary color, which is blue. Blue is our third and final primary color. There are no colors we can mix together to get blue. So again, we have red, we skipped one. We have yellow, we skip one, and we're going to go to this one. Okay, so I'm just going to paint this in really quickly. Trying to keep it kind of neat. But if you get outside of the lines a little bit, it doesn't matter. It's a good opportunity to practice painting neatly. You don't always need to paint neatly, but it's nice to be able to when you want to. All right. Okay, so I have now my 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. Okay, so my primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. And there are no colors that we can mix together that will give us red, yellow, or blue. And that's very important. And if you look on our color wheel, you'll notice that there's a space in between each one of our primary colors. And I'm going to show you why that is in just a moment. So we have red, yellow, and blue. Now we're going to fill in the rest of our spaces with something called secondary colors. I'm going to write down that word, secondary colors. Okay, and there are 3 secondary colors. That's what's going to go in here. So I'm going to switch to my paint and my paintbrush now, just so that you can see that there's lots of different supplies you can use here. You just don't have to use just one thing. Whatever you have available to you will work just fine for this. Okay, and when I mix, I might do a little mixing here. So what I want to do, one of the ways that a color wheel can help us as artists is it can tell us how to mix colors. So if I want to know what happens when I mix together red and yellow, the color wheel will tell me, because that color is going to go right here in between red and yellow. So if I want to find out what happens, I'm going to start by getting some yellow paint. When you mix paint, it's always good to start with the lightest color first. So since I'm mixing red and yellow, yellow is the lightest. I'm going to put a little bit of that right on my paper plate. I just got a little water and a paintbrush. Or I could have used my paint swab, or I could have used my paint strip, whatever I have available to me, a little water and my paintbrush. And I've got my yellow there. And I'm trying to decide what happens when I mix yellow and red. So I'm going to get a little bit of red on my paintbrush. I'm going to mix it in with that yellow. Red is a really strong color, so it only takes a little bit of red to go a long way. And I think you can probably tell on here that what we have is orange. So when we mix together red and yellow, we get orange, and we can paint that color right in between the red and the yellow on our color wheel. So we have the red and the yellow, and in between we have orange. So the color wheel tells us how to mix our paints. Now, if you're using a watercolor strip, you do have orange paint on there, so you don't have to mix the paint if you don't want to. Whoops, I dropped it. You could just paint with orange paint, but I think it's always fun, especially if you're not sure what color something's going to make. It's always fun to mix it yourself. I accidentally got a little orange on there. That's okay. All right, so we know that red and yellow mix together to make orange because the orange is in between the red and yellow on the color wheel. So that's one way we can use this color wheel as a tool. So let's try again, this time with yellow and blue, and see what's going to go in this section of our color wheel. So I'm going to, again, start with the lighter color. Yellow's lighter than blue. So I'm going to start with the lighter color, put some of that on my paper plate, just like that. I'm just going to need a little dab of blue, not much at all. And look at that. Yellow and blue make green when we mix them together. So I'm just going to paint that in between the yellow and the blue, just like that. All we have to do is mix 2 primary colors together to get a secondary color. So orange was a secondary color, and green is a secondary color. That's what we get when we mix 2 primary colors together. Okay. So now I'm going to fill in, I forgot to write this in, so I'm going to write orange and green. There we go. All right, and we have one final secondary color to go. So I'm going to be mixing. I'm going to look to the two on either side of my blank spot. So this is the spot that's blank. The primary color to the left is red. The primary color to the right is blue. So I'm going to look for what goes here. And I'm going to start with blue and then add a little red. Red and blue are both kind of dark colors, honestly. So with this, just a little bit of red usually works. And this is a little bit dark, but you can probably tell we have violet or purple, which is what you get when you mix red and blue. I'm just going to paint that in. Now, once you have finished your color wheel, whether you're doing it along with me now, or you're going to do it with me, or you're going to do your color wheel sometime throughout the week, remember that you're going to keep this to use to help you make decisions about color later. So I'm going to call this purple or violet. We're going to call its official name violet. So violet and purple are pretty much the same thing. So our secondary colors were orange and green and violet. Okay, now I'm going to try to get that out of the way there so it doesn't get mixed up. There we go. So now we have a color wheel. It's very simple, but this is a tool that we can use when we're working on our artwork throughout the next few weeks. We're going to be looking at colors and how they work together. Now, the primary colors again are red, yellow, and blue, and our secondary colors are orange, green, and violet. Colors can work together to give you a feeling. For example, if we use just these three colors, red, orange, and yellow, these are what we call warm colors. And you'll notice they're all next to each other on the color wheel. Yellow, orange, and red are all next to each other, and they're called warm colors. They're the colors that I think of when I think of fire, for example. So fire is hot. This is how I remember it. Fire is hot. And so these are the warm or hot colors. Yellow, orange, and red. And then if I want to think about the ocean, that's how I remember what the cool colors are. Because the cool colors, I think about maybe if I dip my toes into the ocean, it's always nice and cool. And those colors of the ocean are kind of blue and green colors. These are the cool colors. Sometimes violet is also considered a cool color, but it could also be warm depending on what other colors it's with. So colors work together, and you'll notice that the cool colors are next to each other, green, blue, and violet. They're all next to each other on the color wheel. Colors also have opposites. The opposite of a color can be found by using the color wheel. So look right here. The opposite of yellow, if you want to know what the opposite of yellow is, you can go straight across to the other side of the color wheel to find its opposite. So the opposite of yellow is violet. The opposite of red goes straight across, and it's green. The opposite of orange, we just go straight across, and it's blue. We call those, most of the time you don't hear it being called opposite colors. We call them complementary. That's a really big word. Complementary, complementary. So it's a really big word, but it basically just means the opposite. So the complement of yellow is violet, or the opposite of yellow is violet. So see, the color wheel can help us find how to use colors together. And we're going to be doing this over the next few weeks together with our artwork. Now, so what I want you to do is once you make your color wheel, don't throw it away because it's really going to be important for the rest of this artwork. We're going to be referring back to the color wheel several different times throughout the process of creating our artwork for this month. So I'm going to set this to the side to dry, and I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing for this month. So we are going to be creating an artwork, and this is going to be a painting. We're going to be doing this as a painting. If your watercolor strip, if you run out of watercolor strip and you need another watercolor strip, you're welcome to pick up another one from the museum. We will have some of those at the front desk. So if you do run out and you need more watercolor paint, we can make that available to you. That's not a big deal. But what we're going to be doing is creating an artwork using some of the ideas we talked about with our color wheel. But we're going to be doing a drawing this week to prepare for that painting. So I have cut out 2 ovals. And I've already used them to trace some. You can see they're already a little bit messy. I just cut these out of regular white paper. And I have traced them on my paper on the back. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more. I'm going to go through this process with you, but I just wanted to show you what we're going to start doing. Now, you don't have to draw an oval and cut it out. I just did that because it would be easier to transfer my ovals around the paper. But what you're going to need is a big oval and a little oval. You can see how much smaller this one is than the other. So I have a big one and a little one, and you can draw that on one of your pieces of paper and cut it out, or scrap paper, or some junk mail or something like that. It doesn't have to be a special or nice or clean sheet of paper. Just scrap paper is fine. But I traced a large oval and a small oval, and I'm going to be turning these are going to become fish. So I'm going to have 6 different fish in my artwork here. Now, I want to trace 3 large ovals and 3 small ovals. Now, you don't have to trace anything at all. If you just want to draw 3 large ovals and then draw 3 small ovals on your paper, you can do that. There's no problem with that at all. But if you want, you can also just draw them one time and then cut them out and then trace them. So, and they don't have to go straight like this. This is going to be the fish's body. So you can imagine, maybe fish don't always swim exactly straight. Maybe it's swimming up to the surface. So you could kind of angle it and trace around it just like that. Or just draw your oval. You don't have to trace if you don't want. Okay. So you're going to need 3 large ovals and 3 small ovals on your paper. And I already did that just for the sake of time on our meeting today. So you'll see I have 1 large oval, 2, 3, and then I have 1, 2, 3 small ovals. Okay? So total, I have 6 ovals on my paper. Again, you can draw 3 large ovals and 3 smaller ovals, or you can draw them once and cut them out and then trace them. It's up to you. Now, I want you to imagine that each of these ovals is a fish. And we're going to work together. I'm going to show you some ways that we can turn these little ovals into fish on our paper. So I'm going to show you some different ways here. And you can use any of these, or you might not like any of them and you want to do it your own way. And that's totally fine also. So let me show you some different ways that we can turn our ovals into fish. So the first thing I'm going to do is decide which is going to be the front of my fish and which is going to be the back, because I want to know where to put the head and I need to know where to put the tail. So I've got a little bit more room back here. So I think I want this to be his tail. So this side will be his head. So I'm just going to put a little kind of half circle right here to designate that this will be my fish's head. His face will go right in here. And his tail is going to go right back here. Now I'm going to draw sort of a flowy, fluttery fishy tail for this guy. Just like that. Your fishy tail can look anything like you want it to. So I wanted his tail to be kind of curvy and flowy. So I've given him a head and I've given him a tail. And now I want to give him a fin right on the top. So I'm going to give him kind of a wavy fin like that. There's the top of my fish. And then on the bottom, I'm just going to kind of give him a fin that looks like this. Like that. Maybe a little too curvy there. Okay. All right, so there's my first fish. Now I can give him an eye if I want. He might want a little eye there. Maybe a mouth. You could give him kind of like a little kissy mouth. That's really just a little heart shape. I'll show you how I did that. If you take your fish like this and you draw a little heart, then that gives him sort of a little kissy fish mouth. Just like that. Okay, so that's one of my fish. Now I can add scales and designs inside my fish, but I don't want to do any of that until next week because we want to paint it first and then we'll come back over the top and add some of those other details. So you just want to make each of your fish have a tail and a face and a fin on the top and a fin on the bottom. And they can be very, very simple. For example, I'm going to make this one's face. And then I'm just going to give him kind of a simple tail, just like this. Kind of like that. He just has a nice simple tail. I can darken up the lines of his body too, if I would like. You don't have to, but you can. Darken up the lines. Okay. And I might want him to have more of a kind of a curvy fin at the top, like that. So that is very different from this one. But you can make it look any way you want. These are your fish, so you can do anything you want with these. Anything you want. And I might give him sort of a long, skinny fin on the bottom, maybe two, like that. And this one might have more of kind of a open mouth, like that. I just kind of gave him an open mouth. So your fish can look any way you want them to look. You can imagine what their tails might look like, what their fins will look like, what their eyes will look like, what their faces will look like. And after we add color to them, it'll make them look a little more friendly as well. But your job this week is to do that, to add fins and faces and tails to all 6 of your fish. Now, I do want to show you one more thing before we finish up for today. And what I want to show you is how to make it look like one of your fish is in front of the other one. Okay, so these two ovals are pretty close to each other. So let's see what we can do here. I'm going to make this my fish's face right there. And I'm going to make his tail a little different. I'm going to make his tail look like it's going underneath both of these other fish. I want it to look like his tail's behind those fishes. So what I'm going to do is when I get to that fish, I'm not going to draw the line over the top. So watch. I'm just going to draw my line to here, just like that. And then if I were going to draw it, it'd probably go more like to here. Like that. That might be what it looks like, what his tail looks like. But where my other fish is, I'm just going to erase so that I don't want to see, because if these other fish are in front, then that would hide his tail. So I want to make it so that these fish are hiding part of this fish's tail. So you can imagine that this fish's tail is going under this one and under this one. So you can draw and erase, or you can just stop drawing, either one. So I'm going to go ahead now and draw sort of a crazy fin on this guy. These are imaginary fish, so they don't have to look exactly like a real fish would look. Your fins can look anything like you want them to. Use lots, try to make them all look a little bit different. I think it's more creative when we make them look all a little different. Okay. I'm going to give this one a kissy mouth. So I just drew a little heart there. Give him that kissy mouth. Okay. All right, so you will just keep on going. You'll keep adding faces and tails to your fish. Maybe this one's a little tiny version of this one because their tails look similar. So you're just going to keep on adding. And when you're finished, all 6 of your fish will have faces. They'll all have tails. They'll all have a fin on the top and fins on the bottom. So they'll have all of those features. And it might look like some of your fish are in front of other fish or behind other fish, like we have here. Just remember, whatever one is in front, you shouldn't have any lines from another fish going over the top. Just erase them if you do, just like I did. Okay? All right, so for next time when we meet, we're going to start painting this next week not next week, 2 weeks from today, next session in 2 weeks. We're going to start painting this project, and we're going to be using our color wheel when we paint it. We're going to be looking at the color wheel and kind of looking and using the color wheel to help decide what colors we're going to use where. So you're going to need to make sure for next time that you've completed your color wheel, that you have your primary colors of red, yellow, and blue, and your secondary colors, orange, green, and violet, on your color wheel. You're going to need to make sure you have that. And you're going to need to have your drawing all the way finished. So you should have that next time when we meet together. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and you should be able to see my face again here. All right. So I have enjoyed talking to you guys today. I want to, before anybody goes, remind you that if you have missed any of our sessions up till now, so if you missed any of our October or November sessions, you can watch all of those sessions on our YouTube channel. And I've sent a link to that, and you'll get another link tomorrow when I send the link to this video. You'll have a link to be able to access any of those videos. So if I went too fast today, or you need to hear something again, or see how I did something, you can watch the video and watch it again. So you'll be able to see exactly how to do it. And if you had to miss one of our other classes, you'll be able to watch that class. I do want you to try to finish up our 3 assignments from this session and send me images of the artwork that you've created, because we are going to be having our online art exhibition. So our online art show of student work from this semester of Afternoon Art Club. It will be the whole month of January. So I hope that we're able to show off the work that you've made, that you'll send me some pictures of the work that you've made. And if you have trouble, then I'll be happy to help you. I'll be happy to help you get that as well. So I'll be sending out more information about how the museum can help you get those works photographed if you need some help. Now, I'm going to stop the recording in just a moment, and if you have any questions, I'll let you ask those questions at that time. All right, thank you.